Hello everyone, welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. In this one, we're going to be taking a look at the last hero from Part the Mistveil, New Alluring Desire. New is a hero that I wasn't super excited for in spoiler season. I felt that New would end up being pretty good simply because she's an assassin and gets to play the really good assassin cards. Although currently, New is looking to be the worst of the three new heroes, but don't let that discourage you. I think New is still extremely strong. She's better than half the heroes in the game still. So if you wanted to still play New, I think she's definitely a strong choice. She's just not as strong as what Enigma and Zen currently are. But with all that, let's get started with the deck review. Starting with the actual hero card. New Alluring Desire is a 4 intellect, 40 health, mystic assassin hero. She has 2 abilities. Your attacks with stealth get, when this chain link resolves, banish all action cards defending this. This is really useful versus a matchup like Ninja, where you punish them for blocking with the combo cards they want to put in their graveyard. And it also helps you set up for New's second ability, which is an instant for 3 chi to look at the top card of an opposing hero's deck. If it's blue, you may banish it, and then until the end of the turn, you may play blue cards from that hero's banish zone without paying their resource costs. This is a type of card that is very matchup dependent. Versus certain matchups, this is incredibly strong. Something like Guardian or Ninja, New's ability is really good, but a matchup like Ranger or a matchup like maybe Brute, this isn't as strong. Even against Brute, you do get something. You can play some 3 for 5 against like a KO, but there really isn't too much you'll actually get. There's only maybe 5 matchups where the second ability is actually that good, but in those situations, it's pretty strong getting to play their cards. In a Ninja, you get to have a really wide chain. Into Guardian, you get to play some of their big attacks. And even if you just use it for one average size attack, if you do banish 1 blue at some point, it's still fine. For New's equipment, we'll start with her main dagger, Beckoning Mistblade. This is a 2-cost go again dagger for 1. It is a mystic weapon, so New is the only one who can play it. And on hit, you give your next blue attack this turn +1 and go again. This is really important since, unlike Zen or Enigma, New does not have very many effects that have go again or let her keep doing things after she plays it that are in blue. Where Zen has a lot of attacks with go again and Enigma has a lot of instants, it's very hard for New to actually transcend. Even though she, I would say, has the least important transcend, it's still important to do it at least once in some games. So Beckoning Mistblade can help you with that, as well as it has very good synergy with some of your attacks like Levels of Enlightenment, since the go again will allow you to choose draw and plus on the levels if you have 2 blues in your pitch zone, which is incredibly strong. For the second dagger, we pick Spider's Bite. This is simply because in a lot of matchups, our opponents will be having attack actions to block us. We do have another dagger in the sideboard, but Spider's Bite I think is the best main board option for whenever we're just going into really anything. We don't really need a second Mistblade. It's better to have a disruptive dagger as well as the Mistblade. For our headpiece, we play the Mask of Reoccurring Nightmares. This is a 2-block Mystic Assassin Blade Break helmet. It has a once per turn attack reaction for 3 resources, 3 chi specifically, to have target hero banish a card from their hand. This is the main effect you'll be using with your chi. since on a turn you do transcend, you guarantee take a card out of their hand, which means you'll have less cards coming at you, so you can set up a little bit of a bigger turn. New is a deck that's all about reactions, so this does count as a reaction for some of your cards, as well as it's more banishment for New's ability. This is the helmet you'll be playing most of the time. Some matchups, though, you do swap this one out because it could be a little too slow. For the chess piece, we just play Tunic. There's really nothing to explain here. We're an assassin. We use a Tunic resource incredibly well. It's just the best choice. And then for our arms and legs, we're playing the brand new Arousing Wave and Undertow Stilettos. These are both Mystic equipment that have 1 block in Battle Worn. And for reaction, we can pay 1, destroy them, and make a Fang Strike with the Arousing Wave, which is a +1 reaction, or go again with the Undertow Stilettos, which is the Slither. Notably, you can play these on not assassin attacks, so you can play them on something like your CNC or your E-Strike, which is really good. The fact that New gets to play these is really strong. Some lists are still on Flick Knives. I think that could be a fair choice over the Arousing Wave, but Undertow Stilettos just feel like they overperform Black Tech Whispers in almost every situation, because it's very hard for New to actually generate silver since she doesn't have the most contract support. So these cards are just incredibly strong. Before we look at the actual cards, we need to take a look at the sideboarded equipment because they're a fair bit. Starting with our Arcane Barrier, we're a deck with a lot of blues. We're also a little bit of a slow deck, so 3 Arcane Barrier can help us versus our Wizard matchup. Arcane Lantern, since we don't really need either of our Disruptive Daggers into Kano, we'll just be bringing this in Mistblade. Norrin Glove, just because we don't really care about the +1 into Kano. And Norrin Hood, because banishing their card is not good for the resource, and we can't play our other alt helmet. We want the Tunic because of the bonus resource, as well as we want our shoes so we can be a little more aggressive. Into Rune Bleeds, I would suggest bringing Norrin Gloves, since you want both daggers and you would want one of your helmets. For our alternate weapon, we have a Scale Peeler. This will come in versus more armor-heavy decks to punish them for playing such a big fridge. Good into Guardian. Considerable into Zen, because if you have like a CNC, you can throw this. If they don't block it, they'll have to throw cards in front, which can be pretty good for you. Traverse the Universe is here for matchups that are going to try to kill us very fast. Mask of Recurring Nightmares doesn't really do very much. Most of the times the decks that are going to kill us very fast are on a fair bit of blues. Mainly the ninjas are on a good amount of blues. Into Fi, it's a little tougher, but hopefully you can disrupt Fi enough to where he can't push through a ton of damage. But someone like Zen, Traverse is really good into. Katsu, it's okay into. And you can consider this into Guardian as well, but it depends on if you know they're going to try to kill you fast or if they're going to play a little slower. Normally Guardians will try to kill you fast, but you could still make use out of the Mask of Recurring Nightmares. This card is mainly for Zen, but it does have some other applications. And this list isn't on a Balance of Justice, but you could also consider that one probably in this slot because it's good into similar matchups, ninjas, as well as Brute. I don't know if I'd play this into Brute, like KO specifically, but it is an option if you think they're going to maybe any matchup that doesn't go past like turn 4, you might want to consider Traverse, because it's better to get that back-to-back. I guess not even back-to-back because you're probably not doing it the first time, but the blue to be able to fix your hand. You can think of this as drawing a blue. So in those fast matchups, you'll want to be able to draw the extra blue when you need it. And even if not, both helmets do the same thing because you're going to be blocking with it for 2. And then finally, Vance of Determination is purely for Illusionist because we are a deck that does not do well into Illusionist. So you kind of need the Vance of Determination. Next, let's take a look at the deck's main board. We have a 60 card main board here, mainly because our sideboard is a little more tech options for certain matchups, so this is the main core you'll be bringing in a lot of the time. We're going to start with our attacks, because I think those are the easiest to understand. 3 CNC, because it's very, very good with Codex. 3 Enlightened Strike, because we can be a little aggressive with it. Same thing with 3 Looking for Scrap. New is a deck that is on a lot of 1 power blues, so the Looking for Scrap can be turned on pretty easily. Leave No Witness is just a very, very good assassin card. Also good with the Codex of Frailty. That's it for the red attacks. The rest of our attacks are going to be blue. Most of these are a lot of 0 for 1s. Art of Desire Mind wants us to banish blues, and we get a card if we do so. Bonds of Attraction wants us to banish cards the same color. This is some graveyard hate. Double Trouble is some extra banish off the top, only on 2 of it and not 3, because I'd rather have that chance to draw or that little bit of utility. It is more damage, which is very nice, but if I want to play a more damage card, I'm going to hope to get something like a Pick to Pieces in certain matchups, or in most matchups we'll be looking for the Bonds of Agony. It's not the best blue we can play, but it is still fine. 3 Pick to Pieces. Blue, this is for Illusionist mainly, but it is like a 0 for 2, so it really isn't that bad versus other matchups. Levels of Enlightenment, card we talked about a lot before. This card is incredibly good, especially in this deck. We can use New's ability, sort of like we do in Zen, to turn on levels if we have a Chi, as well as just on a turn where we do end up pitching a bit more if we go for daggers. Levels is very strong, especially as I said before with the Mistblade. If we can get 2 blues in pitch and hit a Mistblade, we can get pretty much all 3 modes on levels, because we're going to get the go again automatically from it. 3 Surgical, because of how just strong the card is. Same reason as Leave No Witness, really good. Lets us pick specifically what we want to get rid of and rewards us for getting rid of blues, which also silver is pretty useful in this deck because it does let us put blues in our pitch for levels. That's another reason why levels is really strong, because any silver we make can just turn into level up for the levels of Enlightenment, as well as it lets us cycle blues out of our hand when we're trying to find like Venomous Bites or Hisses or other attack reacts or stuff of the sort. Persuasive Prognosis is a 0 for 1 3 block with stealth. This is one of the brand new M's from Mist. It is a on hero hit, banish the top card of their deck. Then you get to look at their hand and banish a card of the same color. This is an incredibly strong effect, very similar to the Surgical Extraction. If you can hit a red off the top, you can take a big power card out of their hand. If you hit a yellow, well, maybe they have a second Art of War or something. Yellow is definitely the worst hit in most matchups. Some matchups it's fine, like Prism, but is this really going to hit a Prism? Probably not. But it does have its uses. Very, very good disruptive tool. You don't even need to pump it like the other card we're going to talk about, Bonds of Agony. You need to play 3 reactions to actually get its effect. But this is just a 0 for 1. If they say no blocks, you just say, okay, let me see your hand. Maybe I get a card from it. Really strong, and if it ever banishes actions, you gain life. That's a big boon as well for New, is that she gains a lot of life, so she can naturally play a bit longer of a game. And then Bonds of Agony is, again, a 0 for 1 with 3 block and stealth. If you've played or activated 3 or more attack reactions this chain link, it gets +3. And on hit, look at their hand, choose a card, and then search their hand, deck, and graveyard for up to 3 cards with that name, and then banish them all. So into something like Brute, if they decide not to put their Blood Rush in hand in front of this, you just take all their Blood Rushes, they don't have them anymore. Into Ninjas, if they still have an Art of War in their hand, you rip them away. Into something like Guardian, you can just banish all 3 copies of one of their blues, so you can use them later with your own hero ability. This card has a lot of upside if you can get it off. 3 reactions is a little hard, but some of our reactions, such as our shoes and our arms, count as 2, because it's 1 to activate them and then 1 reaction to actually play the token, as well as things like Hiss, Venomous Bite count, so we can easily get to 3 reactions for this to actually work, which is really, really cool. Moving on to some of our reactions. We play 60 reacts, 3 Fate First and 3 Sink Below in the main board, just so we can have a little bit of defensive options. For our aggressive reactions, we're playing 3 Red Hiss and 3 Red Venomous Bite. No blues, because the blues can feel a little weak sometimes, but the reds are just so strong, being a 1 for 3, that either has an extra +1 or a go again if we've pitched a blue this turn. You do have to play the base on an Assassin or Mystic attack action, but as I said before, you can play the others on something like a CNC. So if you say pitch, I don't know, you have 1 in your arsenal saved because they go to your hand. Next turn you could like E-Strike or looking for a scrap with go again, and then play a CNC, give it go again, play something after, or especially with like Venomous Bite, if you can get a Fang Strike and a CNC for 7 is so much stronger than a CNC for 6. These cards just let you be so flexible, which is why they're so good. At blue, again, they are a little weak because they're only +1 base, but they're still very strong. 3 Justinic. This card is another very good card out of the base Assassin part of the set. I think these are the 3 M's they got. All 3 are very strong. Justinic is a 0 cost red attack reaction, and it says choose 1 or both, which I think you always choose both. I think every stealth card in the deck is a 1 cost, or is a 1 power attack action. So you can give an attack action with 1 or less base power +5, making this card a 0 for 5, which is incredibly strong. And or, normally you give an attack with stealth, on hit, banish the top card of that hero's deck, which is, again, very good. Do note that this banish is different from the like Bonds of Attraction banish, or the mainly the Persuasive Prognosis and the Bonds of Agony banish. Obviously, Bonds of Agony is the one straight from their hand, but specifically with like Persuasive Prognosis, they are separate. On some cards, it doesn't matter. Like Art of Desire Mind checks to banish cards, and then if they're blue, you get the effect. So with Justinic, you're giving that card the effect, so both will check. But something like the Persuasive Prognosis, the effect to banish a card off the Justinic won't let you look at their hand. It has to be the one specifically for the Persuasive Prognosis to look at their hand and banish a card of the same color. So do be careful about that. Do state the order, because you could get like a judge call on you, and if you're at like a bigger event, at a local, I'm sure they'll understand. But make sure you say your order. Say this one is the Justinic, this one is the Persuasive Prognosis. You can choose the order, because technically now they're effects on the same card. But do just be careful for that one. Still an incredibly strong card. It's just a 0 for 5. That's super good. We do play one blue attack reaction. That is going to be the Intimate Inducement. This is a 0 cost, 3 block mystic attack reaction. It will give +1 to an assassin or mystic attack action card. Notably, color shifting this card does not increase the amount of power it gives you. That is why we're on the blue one. We'll get to look at the top 2 cards of the Defending Heroes deck. That's what color shifts the red would be for. Then, if that card that we saw is blue, we can choose one of the 2. If it's blue, it is 0 block, and it's made as a defending card here. So we can get a blue out of their deck, which means it's a blue in the Banish zone because it has the block. It is 0 defense now because of this card, which is great. We can hit things like the instants if we want to take Chi out of our opponent's deck. We can even hit Chi if we saw Chi on top. So this card, pretty strong. It's just here because it's a blue pitch. That can sometimes be a good reaction. Other than that, it's just okay in some matchups. Looking at everything else, we have one non-attack action in this deck, Codex of Fury. This is just the best assassin card in the game. You gotta play 3. I know it's expensive, but you can't play new, or really any assassin for that matter, without it. Then we also have 5 Chi in our deck. Homaged Ancestors. Since we're a deck that does gain life normally, this is just an easy one to play. Passover, because we want to be banishing cards from our opposing heroes' graveyards. Preserve Tradition, so we can go a little longer by saving something in our graveyard. Path Well Traveled, so we can get a free go again on something like a Levels of Enlightenment, a Surgical Extraction, CNC E-Strike, any of that. This is just a really nice tool. And then Sacred Art Undercurrent Desires, because it gives us both of the tokens, as well as it transcends and could also banish cards from our opponent's graveyard. Next, let's move on to the sideboard. There are only 8 cards in our sideboard, so we'll just go over them real quick. 2 copies of Spreading Plague is here for our late game matchups, mainly the Guardians. They're really the only ones that are going to be high blocking us. Guardian, as well as anyone just actually trying to block us. Kano can be a little annoying. This could be good into Kano because if they spend a turn to just block something out, we can just blow them out with it. It's also pretty decent into something like Brute because they'll block us sometimes. Any matchup that's actually going to block you, you'll want to consider the Spreading Plague. Aggro decks like Ninja's not going to block you, don't consider this, but decks like Guardian, decks like Wizards do consider this one because it could get you a bit of extra damage. Blanche is here for a just 7 power popper. This will come in versus the Illusionist. It also has some use versus something like Zen because taking the card's color away could be pretty nice. It's just a good card, mainly here because it is a 7 power popper though for Illusionist matchups. And then Siren's Call is a 1 cost, 3 block attack reaction. It lets you look at a defending hero's hand, choose a blue card, make it defend, and then you draw a card if you put a blue card. Strips blues out of the opponent's hand. Notably, can take Chi an instance. Even though they don't have a block value, you can still force them to block with this card. And then the fact that you get the card draw is just insane. I would only bring this in, again, versus Guardian, because they have a lot of blues, as well as the Ninja matchups, because they care about their blues a lot, especially Zen. This is a very good tool into Zen. But with all of that, that's going to be the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed. Next week, not sure if we're going to be taking a look at a different Zen or Enigma list, or we'll do something else. I have been working on a Phi list that seems pretty interesting with some of the new Part the Mistvale cards. We also saw the preview for Rosetta with the 2 new Runeblade heroes being shown. Can't wait for that. I probably won't make a video on any of it until we see The remaining 2 heroes, which are the 2 wizards, should be around, I think, Pro Tour Amsterdam, I think was said. Is it a Pro Tour? Whatever the event in Amsterdam is. I think it's a Pro Tour. That, I believe, is when we should be seeing what the 2 wizards do. But until then, I probably won't make any videos on the cards from Rosetta. But next week, either going to be a different version of one of the other 2 Mystic Heroes or the Phi deck that I've been working on. But other than that, I don't really have anything else to say. So I will say I hope you all had a good day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.